in Warframe, a big part of the gameplay is dressing up your space dolls to look pretty. And
Perfect. Okay.
there are fashion frame, it's called fashion frame, but there's also cosplay frame, where you try to make your Warframe look as much like a certain character as possible.
Perfect. Yes. Love this. Yes.
So this is my idea, right?
Uh-huh.
I think of which Warframes I want to try to do this with, and I make some fashion frames for the Long Quiet and for as many of the not as many, but a few of the different princesses. I think
Excellent.
I can figure something out. But if I give up and it's just Slay the Princess generic footage, you'll know I failed.
Okay. I believe in you. I love this idea.
All right, and then at the start, I'll just say the word Warframe so that I can get my audience to actually watch an algorithm.
Sounds good.
All right, so, um, hey Katie, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. How are you, Sokra?
I'm also good. I asked you to do a podcast with me
Yes.
because we were talking a little bit before your big part two Slay the Princess video went live.
Yes.
And you told me that you thought that your interpretation of the game drastically differs from my interpretation of the game from my video about Slay the Princess.
Yeah.
And I was a
Yeah.
little curious as to why you thought that. But before you start
Sure.
explaining, I
Okay.
do want to say I have not engaged with the pristine cut whatsoever.
Oh,
Um,
okay. 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 Good to know. Good to know.
I did all of my stuff writing on the original version, and but the one thing of the pristine cut that I did
Yeah.
see was a
Mhm.
Let's Player playing through Epilogue Happily Ever After, the dinner scene. And and as people may or may not know, I hope they know, I talk about it frequently enough on my channel. I'm
Uh-huh.
married,
Uh-huh.
and that scene in particular, a little affecting, a little bit speaking to
Just a bit.
the fears of a newly
Yeah.
married person.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what
Are you newly married?
I mean, I was newly married. I
Okay.
would
What's a
I
fun
would say
time?
I've been regular married for a while now.
I suppose in order to be regular married, you at some point need to be newly
Yeah,
married.
yeah. And then you get to the other worries of being married for a very long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
How long is too long?
hopefully there's no such thing as too long.
I mean, yeah, that's the aspiration,
All right.
right?
Yeah. But Slay
uh
the Princess
yeah,
makes you feel like maybe 800-900 years might be a little too long.
maybe we can talk about only lovers left alive. Okay. Where should we start? There's so many options. Where do we want to start?
Okay. Here's where I want to start. I'm going to
Okay.
explain a feeling, and I want you
Yeah.
to know if you have this feeling.
Okay.
Because for me, in
Uh-huh.
the daily grind of routine work and life,
Yeah.
and not having enough time in the day to
Mhm.
um, actually invest a lot of time in your relationships. Because
Mm.
by the way, audience, we're going to be talking about a lot of things like relationships,
Mhm.
struggles with relationships,
Mhm.
life, death, love, birth, war, peace, a lot. So if there is any particular content regarding relationship troubles that you may want to avoid, maybe skip this video, but I think we'll do a good
Mhm.
job anyway. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
there is a number one fear that I have, which is cooking a bad dinner.
Interesting.
Because
Interesting.
my wife and I, we take turns. We always
Yeah.
take turns with whose
Yeah.
turn it is to cook dinner and whose
Yeah.
turn it is to do the dishes. It always swaps back and forth. If we go
Yeah.
out or do something else, it just pushes the days back by one,
Right.
um, so that it's always even Stevens. And sometimes it's not, sometimes the dishes don't get
Mhm.
done. Sometimes dinner's not on the table until too late in the evening or too early, depending on how it goes.
Yeah.
But this one time, I made braised pork,
Uh-huh.
and I
That
had
sounds good.
it would have been good, but I did all of the regular steps. I koshered and seasoned the pork. I let
Uh-huh.
it sit while I
Yeah.
was preparing the sides. I seared the pork. I put it in some stock, popped it in the oven. It was sitting for bacon through, and I was so excited. to finally have achieved this method correctly.
Yeah.
However, one thing I did differently, because I'd been making paprika seasoned pork enough recently, that I used a Creole seasoning on the pork instead. Little did I know, the main ingredient of the Creole seasoning was not the seasonings, but salt. And
too salty.
what I served ended up being basically salt pork with salt. And
well preserved.
And it was so bad that my wife could not eat it, and we had to order something else. And I tried so hard over the next week to stretch those leftovers and find a way to reuse them to reduce the salt content, and it was impossible.
What'd you try?
I mean,
I've had the salt
diluted
mistakes.
things in sauce. I fried it in rice with no other seasoning but the pork itself. Like, I tried a bunch of different things. I tried cutting up really small and putting it in quesadillas. But the original meal was basically so salty that, like, about halfway through eating it and pretending it was fine, I literally thought that my vision was going to go because of dehydration. It was so salty.
Man, if this is your worst like marriage nightmare story, I think you're probably doing pretty good.
I don't know, but that feeling, it feels like shit, because like
it's really interesting that this is your like go-to first story about marriage fear, because my longtime partner, I'm in a domestic partnership, a legal domestic partnership. I mean, what's more adult than getting married, having a legal domestic partnership?
Yeah.
And he relayed to me that he has a couple of times, he said, like, that is my greatest fear is like making a bad dinner. And I have like weird food things sometimes, like, I don't know, my brain isn't great. So I will sometimes be like, I don't like this. I can't eat this. Sorry. I know you worked really hard on it. And I make uh-ohs when I cook all the time. I've had the oversalt things. And I have a habit of, when I'm serving food, being like, all right, here's all the mistakes that I made. Here's all the reasons this might not be good.
Right.
And like, if I make a bad dinner, I feel like I've like failed as a woman, which is really toxic, but I do have that like feeling.
Yeah. Okay. So you know that feeling. And like, for me, it feels like, you know, everyone is dealing with so many stressors between like work and bills and like, you know, trying to keep some aspect of, you know, the feelings of what you had when you were dating seems like an insurmountable task most of the time. Because like when you're dating someone, you only really need to be on point for like a limited number of hours, and then you get to walk away. And
enter slob mode.
Right. And become slob. And once you shift the dynamic and actually, you know, the only thing you want is to, you know, be back in your relaxed domestic sphere, but you're so burnt out from the rest of the day, from all the outside influences of life, that you feel like, you know, dinner is your one opportunity to like keep the relationship alive sometimes. And like, you know, when it's bad, that fear shows up, and you're like, oh God, I have failed as a partner. And
100%.
Like, the other person never feels like that's actually what's happening. It's all internal. Or at least I should hope the partner never feels that way. So some people might have to have a conversation about that.
Another thing that I get really scared of is sometimes I forget, like, he'll ask me to grab something at the grocery store or downstairs, and I'll forget, and I will be like, I am the worst human being ever. I forgot your yogurt.
Not the yogurt. Yeah. So all of that is to say that we're talking about one specific scene from the game Slay the Princess, where the two characters, which are the player character, eventually called the Long Quiet, and the princess, eventually called the Shifting Mound, have dinner together at the conclusion of one of the branching narrative paths. And it's very clearly on its face a very direct metaphor for a loveless or failing marriage or relationship. Like two people really trying to make it work and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that scene alone, with that being the first thing I saw of the pristine cut, I went, you know what? I'm not emotionally stable enough for this. I'm going to pass.
That's so valid. It's so valid. Yeah, it's devastating. It's a devastating scene.
Yeah. And you did the opposite. You went fully in and completely mapped the entire game.
I do have a tendency to go spelunking when I find something emotionally difficult. No, I do like to dive into the crevasse head first, which can be bad for the people around me because they're like, "What's wrong with Katie? Is she dying?"
And you're like, I'm not dying. I want to feel sad.
I'm figuring something out. I'll be back later.
You just need some black man thinking time down by the lake.
Yeah. I suppose I do.
So tell me about how you engaged with my video of Slay the Princess, and why do you think they're so different?
Okay, so I don't think that I would say that they're like so different, but I do think the differences between them are very interesting, and I guess I kind of wanted to, I don't know the difference between them. So just to be transparent, I consumed your video through the shorts that you made, the sort of series of shorts that you broke it up into. So I feel like I kind of consumed it out of order, maybe a little bit.
Maybe a little bit, perhaps. I had a very clear 3-chapter structure, and Harry from Video Games Are Bad did a great job being my framing device.
Oh, nice. Man, Harry's great.
Yeah.
So I think that specifically on the way that you talked about the ending, and I guess because like you actually know and have studied and understand philosophy, and it is kind of it's your house style, right? To look at things through like a classical, like Western philosophy lens. And the way that you sort of brought in like Plato and stuff, I'll just say, to talk about the ending, and like what the different endings mean from a philosophy perspective. And then, so, okay, the trouble that I think we're going to have here is that my video kind of centers on the new ending that was added in Slay the Princess. So I guess what I was trying to get from you when I was like, oh, I think they're so different, was like, what does Soccer think about the new ending in the pristine cut, which I don't know if you'll be able to talk about since you haven't played it.
Yeah, maybe not, because you say the new ending, and I'm just thinking, which what? Which is an ending? The ending. Like instead of after you take your 5 princesses, my favorite ending is leaving the cabin together. I think that's beautiful. Because like, it's like, well, something does need to change in this relationship, and let's go figure out what that is together. I'm like, yeah. As somebody who loves love, like, yeah, that's what I want to do. But there's 2 other major endings, I would say. There's the one where you just kind of like let her win and you're like, yeah, totally. Let's like rejoin back into one person and like start a new universe. And then let's then the other ending is like, I'm going to go to the cabin and then kill you, and then it's my universe only, and then you get that red star ending. I wonder, can you possibly briefly kind of recap your sort of like philosophical perspective on those 3 endings for me? Sure. Well, to go to like the broadest umbrella sense, there's this conversation of the long quiet and the shifting mound they're talked about as gods within the game, and I think the framing of these characters as gods is like a very convenient shorthand that people that the whole community uses for describing the characters. And like for me, because of studying philosophy and studying theology and the intersection there, like my understanding of, okay, but what do we mean when we say a god? Because a god could be just like a local spirit, but then also like within Catholic theology, God has become this very depersonalized, abstract concepts of infinity. And like for me, like the abstraction itself, like an abstract metaphysical way the world is what people are referring to when they say the word a god. especially in the context of this story, which is why I looked at the shifting mound as the abstract concept of change and the long quiet as the abstract concept of permanence, of non-change. And you know, the Sanskrit scholars, the Buddhist debates around whether or not the self exists, self being their word for the concept of permanence, a universal permanence sort of concept of selfhood. That isn't like individuation. It's significantly more like permanence and being, whereas change is considered to be non-being. And you know, the debates between Hindu and Buddhist scholars and the Jains and the yogis all center sometimes around that core concept. So it was playing in that garden, or at least it felt like it was playing in that garden to me. And so that's the perspective that I brought to the game. And so I saw it as, because this is a dialectic, it's at first a pretty violent combat, and then it becomes just a conversation once the more personalized aspects of the narrator's construct fall away, once the narrator has fallen away, and they can become their abstractions again, or at least start to become the abstractions and not persons or characters. Where those endings lead in terms of what are we choosing as the abstract principle that will define what the universe is. And so like the leaving the cabin ending for me is we literally don't know what the abstractions are, and we're going to figure out what is going to happen from there. It's embracing ignorance. For the long quiets ending, it is we are rejecting change and we are becoming stagnant, non-moving. You know, the image of the solar flare stuck in place, I don't think that's a JPEG on accident. It's not animated on purpose.
That's well observed, yeah.
And then with the shifting mounds ending, that is returning to what the universe already is, which is change moving forward at a specific rate until the end of the universe. Which is why you have the motion of the kaleidoscope and the growing grass. So I don't really see the shifting mound and consuming you. I see it as synthesis, that you're just becoming the universe again. And the point is to learn to love how our actual universe already is, as opposed to wanting it to change. And, you know, when we put that in the metaphor of a relationship, I think that's where it gets really messy as a not one-to-one idea of what would be good for these people. So, because like my analysis style is very much about medium, theme, and like sometimes art and setting. But I think your analysis style is really focused on the dynamic between character and theme. And I think that's honestly a better way to discuss stories quite often that I wish I had access to more than I
wish
do.
I had access to your style.
Yeah, well.
That's why we wanted to do a podcast together, really.
Exactly.
How you do that?
I'm autistic. I don't know how you describe other people's feelings so easily. It takes me time.
By being terrified that if I don't understand them perfectly, they'll leave me.
No. Well, I have that fear too, so it works out great.
Okay, great. Yeah.
So like something that I noticed, because my video, and I think most videos about Slay the Princess.
It's kind of a different game.
is going to be like really focused on that theme of love, because that's what the story vocally says it's about. But then, of course, the actual events of the story are very violent and traumatic and grotesque, horrific.
You're just describing love again. What do you mean?
Yeah, no, and see, but hold on, we'll get there. Maybe that's for the end of the podcast. But yeah, like in particular, what I noticed from your video focusing on the dinner scene is that the steps leading up to it, it may be hard to like pay attention to it, but the smitten is like a really toxic character for the main character to express themselves as.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know how you see the behavior of the main character, because in my video I described it as the player character expressing themselves and being encouraged to continue expressing themselves in the same way that they did before, and that pulls that thing that was the player character's value to an unhealthy extreme.
Yes. Yeah.
And so like when the long quiet basically more than once and then at least once successfully, the long quiet threatens to kill themselves in order to keep the relationship going. And the princess sort of in this arc is more aware of the fact that she is sublimating herself, like her person, to...
Wait, can we go back for a second? When you say that the long quiet threatens to kill themselves in order to keep... What are you talking about specifically?
I mean, there's one time the long quiet, the smitten, when speaking to the narrator, when clapping back at the narrator, literally says that he will kill himself.
And then he rips his heart open.
And then he rips his heart open and literally dies in front of the princess, which results in the epilogue.
Yeah.
So the princess is being the damsel, which is all about agreeing with the partner, agreeing with you, the player character, agreeing the right way to be in love. You know, I forget which section of the video you highlighted, but there's one section where you're chastised for always doing the right thing and encouraged to actually act wrong, act a little selfishly at times, like to be yourself rather than the correct main character to be. And like trying to be the correct partner and the correct way to be in love is what sends you down the smitten's path and then to the epilogue, to the dinner scene. And I just, I feel like both men and women, a lot of us have had the experience of a partner who threatened themselves if you did not comply with what they wanted. And I think the princess becomes very self-aware after being the damsel, that everything she's doing is, in a way, trying to be what the player character expects her to be. And it's only in the epilogue scene that she realizes she can't keep doing that. It's not working, and she doesn't know what her way out is.
Yeah. Well, one joke that didn't make it into my script that I kept kind of turning over in my head is calling Happily Ever After the Melinda Gates simulator.
I could see the difficulty in the transition. You kind of just have to slap people in the face with that one.
It's because like she has so much in that chapter. Like Smitten has given her so much, right? And it's not just that the happily ever after damsel wants to just make him happy. Like it's mutual, right? Like Smitten's like, here's dinner, here's every board game in existence, right? Like here's this gorgeous castle. Everything is exactly how, like, I can't imagine what else you would want. Like I'm genuinely trying to think of what else you would want. And I guess I found that dynamic really relatable. I think when I first played the damsels chapter in the original cut, where it was just the derealizations screen where she sort of becomes flatter and flatter until she's just like a stick figure, basically.
Yeah, the human instrumentality moment.
Yeah. I found that very very relatable to my previous relationships. I used to have this metaphor that like I felt like I would fold myself into a piece of origami, like different pieces, just sort of depending on what was necessary in the moment. And I was like, well, what the hell am I? I'm just a paper with a bunch of creases in it. This sucks, man. I'm like a crumpled up piece of paper at the end of the day, and I'm exhausted, and I don't even know what I want now. And that really, really struck me. And I ended up feeling really angry about that, about having been made that. And I felt terrible about being so angry because like the person who I was with, sort of my interlocutor in this relationship, it's just like the nicest guy. Right? Like he was just like super an easygoing dude. And like there were just like specific things that he would get really anxious about, but like, a sweet guy, and I just kind of want to be there for him. And so like, okay, you're always so good to me. Let me try and be good to you in the way that you're good to me, even if it doesn't make me happy. Right? And like I ended up feeling like so profoundly selfish in leaving that relationship. And then when Happily Ever After came along, I was like, yes. This is the natural conclusion of that. Where both people have to be happy, for it to work out.
Yeah.
You really can't fake it.
I think one of the hardest
Yeah.
things to like accept about
Mhm.
being in a very long-term relationship with someone is that like, like particularly with marriage vows,
Yeah.
there's always a promise to give yourself to someone and to make a person happy.
Yeah.
And one of the hardest things to accept about having a healthy relationship is that you cannot make someone happy. Like there needs to be participation. The
Yeah.
person needs to feel agency over their life in order to reach
Yeah.
happiness. And like you could support, you could give everything, but like sometimes the world is the thing or society or personal life circumstances are the thing that the person is butting up against. And like your role as a partner is not, stereotypical to say fix it from my cis male perspective, but also your role isn't to cause happiness or to fix the problem of sadness. Kind of like what we were saying before, sometimes people want to feel sad. They want to feel the way their situation actually makes them feel. Not like trying to feel better or become happy just creates an extra stress or burden that doesn't need to be there. And I think partners can very easily take it upon themselves to feel responsible for the other person being happy and really burden themselves and like bend themselves backwards, whether it be through changing themselves or through increasing the amount of labor that they do, or any number of means, whether they be gendered or not for whichever partner. Just trying to reach that goal of it's my job for you to be happy. I'm failing at my purpose, and that's making me unhappy. And that feeds into this not virtuous cycle, the opposite of a virtuous cycle, a toxic cycle of making the dynamic itself miserable.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I wonder if you ever feel in a relationship that the other person, like you're occupying the other role where somebody else is trying to make you happy and you're just like, that's not your job right now. I think what we seek is to be witnessed more than to be present in the unhappiness. To be seen, like, and to be accepted and loved despite that. Like, man, I see that, you're on the bathroom floor crying and you're still beautiful to me. Like that's like one of the most romantic things I think somebody could say to me.
I think I
so
have
I
been
wonder
on the other
if you
end.
ever find, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I have been on the other end. It's been a while, but I also, like before this particular relationship, have never really had the language to describe to the partner that like that is what I needed. Like to not be made happy, but to just be, seen and accepted as I am. And like I think because I didn't have the language to describe that, basically whenever I did have a partner, they would be oblivious to the fact that there was anything that needed to be done at all. And so I wouldn't be receiving that person trying to make you happy, because before my current wife, I never had someone who was sensitive enough to witness that I needed some kind of support and provide it without me having that language. Like one of the things that sets Landria apart from every other partner I've ever had is that my inability to speak when I'm having like when I'm having a sensory overload and am starting to melt down because the Bed Bath and Beyond or the candle store just smells too much.
Crazy.
like the average person would not think, oh, this person has autism and is having a sensory-based emotional breakdown.
Yeah.
But my wife does, and she doesn't need it to be explained. She just witnesses and knows.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, before I didn't have the language, and so I didn't receive the care. And now I do have the language, but I'm with someone who doesn't need it. And so it's like, well, not sure how I lucked out there, but like I can understand what being on the receiving end of that is like, in just that, you could be given everything and without feeling agency over it, without feeling like you have done something to deserve it, you will always have a distance from it. It won't feel like yours. It'll feel like theirs, or it won't feel like ours.
Interrupt you to ask a question. What is it there?
So satisfaction.
Okay.
Maybe not joy, maybe not like happiness, but content.
Yeah, peace.
Yeah.
I think one thing that story that you shared, sort of perspective that you shared, brings up for me is that another thing that I see missing from the relationship, the unhappy relationship depicted in Happily Ever After, is neither character feels free to kind of play in the language, right? Because I think how do you find that language to say what you need? And I think you screw up a bunch of times is how you find it. You say it in ways that are selfish or thoughtless or generalized or non-specific,
and then you take it back and you ignore it and you move on. And
right. So I think I think that's another thing that is essential. In addition to like being able to be witnessed, it's also being able to play and like to talk about the ambiguity of play, like being able to play in the space and come.
They don't know we've been reading that book.
Well, they're gonna find out because I can't stop thinking about it. But like to find like space to be playful with your language, even when you are in extreme pain, right? And I think by that I mean like just try to say something badly and to have it received, maybe not well, but not as like, okay, well now this relationship is over because you have said this thing.
Right. And oh my gosh, the number of times you feel like you've ruined a relationship because you said one thing bad.
Yeah. Or felt like a relationship is now ruined because they said something bad.
Right.
Right. But like for both cases, the case is like, no, dude. Like I'm furious with you. I'm angrier than I've ever been at someone. But like the fact that I'm angry means that I'm going to stick it out and like try and find some sort of resolution here, because like, well, we can't end things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like that's the two sides of the coin thing, that love and hate are different expressions of caring. And the apathy you talked about in your video is the true opposite. It's the negation of caring.
Hating someone is so intimate.
Yeah. Yeah, you get to know a lot about a person that you hate. Just never talk to me about objectivism or Ayn Rand. Never. Because the things I can tell you about how that woman lived. It's like, I know so many facts about how she herself betrayed her own philosophy and didn't practice what she preached.
Fucking classic, those assholes.
But
I know a lot about snakes. Because I hate snakes.
You can't be friends with my wife then, because
we've talked about
I have learned a lot about snakes because my wife loves snakes. And
I think that's so beautiful.
I used to be, I used to have, the bit of the phobia about it. One of our early dates is that we went up to this little theme park place in Orlando. And there was a guy on the street doing snake outreach education to
Oh,
demystify
that's nice.
people's fear and hatred of snakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we got photos of Landria having this big boa around her neck, around her shoulders. And I was like, no, thank you. Please don't. I don't want to. And the dude, without my consent, which was not cool, put the snake around my shoulders.
Oh
And
God.
I froze. And I had a very, very fast series of thoughts of, okay, well, if I freak out, I hurt the snake, and that's not okay. If
Yeah.
I hurt the snake, I hurt my girlfriend, and that's not okay,
Yeah.
because she'll be upset.
Yeah.
So I literally was like, I can't make a decision, and I froze.
Mhm.
And they took, everyone was loving it. They took some pictures, and then the snake was removed from me, and I could move
Thank God.
again. And then when Landry and I were talking about it afterwards, she was expressing how pissed off she was at that guy for putting the snake around my neck, and how irresponsible that was, and how cruel it was to the snake in case something bad happened to it. And I was like, oh, I did the right thing by being unable to decide. But like from there, just I have become far more exposure therapy through marriage has resulted in me having had held and even found some snakes to be kind of cute.
Aw. And like I would bet that some of the things that I really bother me about snakes are the same exact things that Landria, her name is Landria, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that she loves about them. Like one thing I hate about snakes is how do they move? Why are they moving? They don't have legs. How is that working? That's troubling.
Yeah,
and I bet she finds it charming and cool and beautiful.
They do have very, specific body language too. Like you can tell the difference between a snake that is upset and a snake that is not. Like they also have a bunch of different ways of moving. Not all snakes move in the same way. They flex their ab and back and side muscles differently for locomotion. There's this one famous internet snake called Tofu, who a very temperamental but a very cute little white snake, who also recently was discovered hates Markiplier with a passion.
Oh
no! Anytime his owner or her owner puts Markiplier up on the laptop, Tofu's body language gets extremely aggressive and will start biting.
That's too bad.
But take Markiplier off the screen, put Moist Critical on. Fine.
Interesting.
Happy
likes
snake.
Moist Critical.
Likes
so
Moist Critical. Doesn't like Markiplier.
That's so interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Man, those guys are in the same category of like, yeah, okay, for me.
Yeah. The
that's interesting.
But yeah, I mean, it's those moments where it's like, oh, this is an animal with internality as much as other animals are. Like there is intelligence, there is a mind, there is some semblance of a person in there, and I think that is what really got me to switch my way of thinking about snakes. Like these aren't just edgy murder monsters for my teenage sketchbook. These are little animal people, just like my pets, and they're not they're not the same. They don't have the same emotions as like a cat or a dog. They're not really about community. But there is an internal world in there, that there is a perspective and thought happening in there, and like with just enough exposure you start to see it.
Yeah. Well,
that was a tangent.
Unless I absolutely have to, I probably won't find that, but because I'm still so scared. But I do think it's genuinely beautiful that you have been able to find that switch, and it gives me hope for so many things that I do hate that I might be open to like changing my perspective on. Snake's not one of them, but I love that, and that you did it for love.
And I did it for love, or did I do it for hate, or both?
Or maybe a little bit of both.
Like, I'll show you who can't like snakes.
That's great, dude. I love that.
So going back to the dinner scene, I think part of what those characters are experiencing and why it feels like so awkward, because like you want to be able to assign some kind of blame to one or the other, Like so much of the progress up to the endings of Slay the Princess is conflict between the two characters and trying to figure
Yes.
out who is betraying who and who's making the wrong step, who's being violent, who's being manipulative.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then when you get to that epilogue scene, it really just comes down to neither of them are trying to be manipulative, but that's just the fundamental, like the baseline of their relationship at that point. Mutual manipulation to keep the peace. And
Yeah.
I think part of what I see it as is because there are a bunch of different words for different kinds of love, right? We could go through all the
Yeah.
different Greek ones, but
Sure.
some like more modern theory describes marital relationships or long-term domestic relationships as being broken down into the categories of infatuation, infatuous love. There's intimate love, and then there's companionate love, which are, infatuation is like the passion, the excitement, the dating, the fun,
Yeah.
probably also
You don't need to know them.
the eros.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then intimacy is like the deep understanding of a person, like the ability to be vulnerable, talking about values and beliefs, inner thoughts.
Yeah.
It's like the intimate love would be that moment, crying in the shower, and someone comes and like they see through all of the pain and says, like, I still find you beautiful, because they can see your value through like the struggle.
Yeah.
That would be the intimacy. And then companionate love is just the day-to-day, this is a person who is here for me, who is, who is spending my time with me and supporting me in all the little ways that wouldn't really matter if they didn't happen. Like, we could overlook them and ignore them because it wouldn't be a problem, but we do have them and we value and appreciate that. That's the going to the store and getting the yogurt. That's the hey, can you do me a favor? Do this. Sure, I'll do that.
Right.
That's the making dinner and having it be good enough to eat, even if it's not a fancy date night dinner with multiple sides and champagne.
And you're spending your life together and making each other laugh and just being like, man, I'm so glad that we are fellow travelers on this path that we're on. Yeah.
And I think that like one of the issues is that sometimes companionate love becomes the only kind that gets expressed or that sticks around, because it's like it's on autopilot. You don't have to make companionate love happen when you are domestic partners, when you're cohabitating together. It just kind of results. Whereas dating is all about building up that infatuation and building up like the intimate love. And sometimes with enough years, the intimate side is just like we've done all this, like we know each other so deeply that there might not be another thing to learn, or a deeper level to access, because we've already connected as much as people can. There'd have to be time and growth and change before we could connect even more.
Yeah, I was going to push back on what you were saying until you added that last bit, because like I don't think that there is ever a finishing or like getting to the end stage of intimate love. Because if you can never really know yourself fully, in my opinion.
True.
And so somebody else could never ever know you fully. And like you are always going to be changing and growing. And so there's always more to learn about somebody, because every day when they have more experiences, you can learn about them and how they're sort of changing their outlook on life. And one thing I really love about a long-term relationship is being witness to those changes and seeing them over time and being like, you are this person that I loved so much 5-10 years ago, and you're so different in so many ways. You've completely rejected some things. And I still love that person. And that's so fascinating to me. And I see that the way that we've changed each other, and like you changing has also changed me. And like that interplay is also so interesting to me to like keep track of. And I think when in my my feeling is that when you feel like you're at that end stage of intimacy, it's more that you've kind of learned everything that you want to learn more than there is not more to learn, if that makes sense.
That actually does make a lot of sense. And to be entirely honest, I kind of just threw that last bit out haphazardly, like not really considering it too much. And
Yeah.
I think part of that is because I maybe it was just like a bias from my Catholic upbringing and how that made me think about marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I kind of actually was thinking that like any time or change would have to be something that was incidental or eventful, not like just the norm of what the relationship is. Because like the Catholic concept of love is that it is two people, literally two souls, becoming one soul, becoming the same person in like
How
in like
familiar
the eyes
to
of God.
Slay the Princess.
Yeah, like Slay the Princess.
Yeah.
It's like but like in that religious Christian kind of one of the mysteries of how the universe works, right? It is two becoming one body.
Yeah.
And like that doesn't mean you stop being two people. It means like in the same way the Eucharist and the wine become the body and blood of Christ, but it's obviously not materially flesh and blood at the altar. That's called one of the mysteries. That's an unknowable thing that is just part of the inherent ignorance of the human condition, and God does it and whatever. And like there's this one book called One Body by Alexander Pruss, who was a theologian philosopher who I think had really good arguments and didn't understand the actual conclusions to any of the arguments he made, because he kept trying to fit it into justifications for all of the bigotries that Christians do against like partners out of wedlock or gay people or anything like that.
Oh, Lordy.
And I'm like, Lord, this person does not understand how their own argument should conclude. And I had this whole fight with my university professor being like, I'm going to only use his arguments. His conclusion is wrong. And like I spent an hour talking to a professor after class and being like, no, professor, gay sex is real love, romantic sex, because of this and this argument. And like he said you have to be pro-life, but his arguments are actually pro-choice because of this and this argument. And my professor, and I was in a symbolic logic class too, so I wrote out the algebraic symbols of why his argument led to my conclusion instead. And the professor went, there's some very interesting points and I'll have to think about them. Which, in philosophical speak, means he gave up, he didn't have anything to say, and I won. But he wasn't going to change his mind.
Please leave my class.
Yes, it was, please leave my office hours. I can't win this argument, but I'm not going to change my mind. So please go away. That was the conclusion. And I was like, I won. I was more Catholic than you could ever be. I was not the same person in college.
That's so interesting.
The
changes are beautiful. And then I think the other thing that you said when you were talking about the types of love that I found myself kind of butting up against is saying the sort of companionate love becomes the only love. And I think I would argue that what we see in the epilogue, Happily Ever After, is not companionate love. I think it's companionship, but not companionate love.
Yeah.
I think one thing that somebody said to me a long time ago was to stay in a relationship, there's 3 pillars. You have to like each other, love each other, and your lives have to be going in the same direction. And the secret is you really only need 2 of those. If one of those isn't there, you can probably make it work.
Interesting.
And I think something that I found that I really need in a relationship is to just love spending time together, like to continue to make each other laugh or to say things that make the other person go, what? That's a crazy thing to say. Why did you say that? That's so interesting. Or, just want to watch the same TV shows or to make fun of Hallmark movies together or, just to truly enjoy the time together. And I I think what we see, I guess, really through the sands of time is that, like, well, they're no longer able to find ways to enjoy each other.
Yeah.
And I guess what we're not really talking about when we talk about happily ever after is that this does go on for eternity. And like immortality is torture in the
Right.
face, right? And so I guess
Right.
that's not really something I'm talking about. So maybe that's a real weakness in my argument here.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's just something that came up for me.
No, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense because, like, given their own context, even something like companionate love being the last thing you're holding on to can also go away, even though you're still cohabitating. Like, lots of people cohabitate and hate the person that they're living with, roommates, siblings.
Yeah.
You know,
or neutral to them.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think, you know, for me that because I'm one of those weirdos who's actually way into the idea of becoming immortal. I am not.
Tell me everything.
I am not down with embracing that death is inevitable. I do, but if I did have an alternative, I would choose it. Maybe at least for a while, because I feel like even if you get to the point of having like the complete ennui, the complete loss of meaning from being alive for eternity, you also have eternity to figure out how to stop that, like how to get over it.
Interesting. Okay.
And so it's like, well, I could just do philosophy. Like, for what percentage of the eternity do I have books? For what percentage of the eternity do I have other eternal people?
There is no such thing as percentages in eternity, though.
Yeah, well, because we're talking about infinite, right? So, like, I'm still thinking that I would have a point linear perspective, which I may not if I become infinite. Maybe my perspective would be across the fourth dimension.
That is interesting. Sort of a Ralph McGorry and Kurt Vonnegut situation you find yourself in.
Or for the Warframe fans, the infestation and how they look at the world. See, it's still a Warframe video.
Yeah, totally. I know a lot about Warframe for sure.
Yeah, you know the most, actually. I actually just talk to you for all of my scripts. I'm a huge fraud.
Totally.
Okay, so I guess a note to end on, since it's come up a bit, is...
Can I bother you about something before we go to a note to end on?
Yeah, bother me. Go ahead.
I think, okay, just to kind of get back to like, I'm so curious what Soccer thinks about sort of my interpretation of sort of this ending is now I'm like, okay, Soccer, you absolutely must play the new ending of Slay the Princess and then tell me your philosophical based perspective on it, because can I spoil it for you?
Please spoil it for me, because I'm not going to go in.
Fair. So it is very similar to the Red Star JPEG ending, but instead of going to the cabin to kill the princess, you slay her as a god, sort of on equal footing, right? You have like an epic god battle.
What, like with swords?
With infinite hands.
Oh, okay. That's
and claws.
Okay.
Yeah. And she says, like, why are you fighting me? Like, what would you be without me to define your shape? And kind of in the way that you're talking about immortality, being like, I would have eternity to figure that out. The Long Quiet's like, I don't know. I'm going to go find out what I'm going to be without you. That's my right to figure that out. I'm going to go see.
No.
And then you get a new ending called Your New World. And instead of an angry red star that is a flat JPEG, you get a black hole, which somebody corrected me in the comments. It's a black hole. It's not a new star. It's a black hole.
Well, what do they know what color black holes and new star? A new star could be black. What do they know? How much of the universe have they seen?
Don't like black holes eventually become stars again? I don't know.
No, they just hawking radiation until they stop existing.
Okay, cool. So, but like, there's like an animated, like, sort of, you see the matter going around the black hole, and it's animated, and above that or below that,
disk and the radiation around it. Yeah,
exactly. And below that is an ocean, which I kind of interpret to like you're sort of reborn from a new metaphysical womb. And it's a much more peaceful ending than the angry red star, which feels like a bad ending to me.
Yeah.
And the text underneath, it says a bunch of stuff, and it ends with, "What textures will you weave to occupy yourself forever?" That's the princess's words, like again being repeated there at the very end. And so I'm very curious how you interpret that sort of different take on slaying the princess.
Oh no. I think I dug myself a hole a moment ago, and now I don't think I can get out of it, because that thing I just said about how being immortal would be super cool, actually, I don't agree. I don't like how it turned out with that ending.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. What do you hate about that?
Because that is exactly what I just said. But okay, so like the ocean is imagery from multiple cultures' creation myths. Ex nihilo creation myths usually start with describing, in the beginning there was nothing, or there was a deep, dark ocean, and then something just spontaneously comes into existence, whether that be a light or an egg or a fish or a turtle, or a dude. It doesn't matter.
Or a big bang.
Or a big bang, there was nothing and then boom. Or with Pythagoreanism, which did used to be a religion. People forget that. It wasn't just math.
I don't forget it. It's crazy.
There was nothing, and then there was the monad, and the monad split into the dyad, and the dyad kept splitting, and then we had everything. And that's how geometry works.
You rapscallion.
At some point, some god said, "Hey, cosine and tangent," and they were like, "Whoa." And then the black hole, so a black hole is a singular point of infinite mass, right? Which causes everything, light, matter, space as well, not just, because people think of space as nothingness. Space is not nothingness. It's the fabric upon which things are. Even a vacuum has space in it. There is no nil. There's no nothing. Space is a thing. That energy is represented on in the fields. If you're going to use certain versions of quantum, which I don't understand. Quantum. I just say I do.
Me neither.
I just repeat the same words I was told from Daniel and Jorge Exploring the Universe podcast. So if there's no change, if there's no time, then nothing, radiation can't happen out of the black hole. It stays a singularity. So it can only be one thing forever. And so I think the line by the shifting mound of whatever will you weave in your new reality is being a little tongue-in-cheek, a little sarcastic, because I don't see the long quiet to be eternity, like eternal life. I see it as an infinity of permanence, of sameness. But because the construct makes him personified as a character rather than the abstraction, because in this ending they aren't returning to the abstractions, he's staying a character, he's staying a god. I think he is just trapped. I think what that ending is all right, spend eternity figuring it out. You can't, because you can't change, because you ended change. And so it's sure, go ahead and use that as your justification, but the problem is that you may be a god of this new dark ocean reality that you have made, but your reality is stagnant. It will be exactly like this, and it will suck. Kind of like how the narrator witnesses his permanent reality that he wanted in the epilogue. The goal of the construct was to make that for everyone.
And he's like, no thanks.
And he's like, no thanks. Actually, that's super lame, bro. And for me, I guess my version of immortality is super cool is also really selfish, because I want the universe to stay exactly the way it is and continue having differentiation and change. But I just want to be there for all of it.
This is so interesting, because I feel like we've both done a flip on immortality in this conversation. I think you sold me on it, and then I talked you out of it.
There's a version of immortality there that's really not, I'm not down with it. I don't want to be I don't want to be Cars from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and just stop thinking at some point and float forever. I want to be actively thinking the whole time, please.
Yeah. So,
but I need things to react to if that's the case. I need change and stimulation regardless.
So let me tell you my kind of interpretation of that final line.
Okay.
Because it is a bit different from with what you came up with. And that is, what textures will you weave to occupy yourself forever is what the princess said. And to me, that means that, like, okay, you are going to get bored. You are an all powerful, like, being. You are reality. You get to shape it to whatever you want. In the face of eternity, which is the length of this new reality, you're going to get bored eventually, and you're going to ask for some change.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to create that change because, well, you can do whatever the heck you want here. And
so you think he'll recreate the shifting mound?
You will recreate the shifting mound, and then eventually the universe will end, and then you'll kill her again, and then on it goes.
Oh no! The cycle of samsara!
Yeah!
You just invented Hinduism.
I mean, maybe it's just a good idea.
Maybe it's a good idea to just do it over and over.
Or maybe it's not. I mean, Unknown Together, I think, is still my favorite ending, because of, the character-driven reasons for it.
Mm-hmm. The one with the grass kaleidoscope is still my favorite.
So interesting to me because,
the unification and becoming
it's my
abstract.
least favorite. That is my least favorite ending.
That's my favorite because it's just go back to how the universe already is.
Boo! Boo!
It's go back to what we already got. I like what we got now.
Sucks.
No, this is good.
Pain and suffering and bullshit.
Yeah.
I can read the news and feel that way. Don't you ever feel?
Look, I don't feel that way while I'm watching the news.
Don't you ever feel like the fabric of reality needs some serious reworking?
No. I like it how it is. I mean, no, sometimes I do feel that way. A lot of times when I was a kid growing up, I would just be like, well, if everyone just did exactly as I told them, all the problems would be solved. But and that would be true, but no one would be happy with that. I like it turning back to loving the reality we currently have. And that kind of swings me back to my notes to end on, which is, since we're talking about gods and the interplay between love and hate being the same thing with different expressions, I want to bring up one more kind of love, which is agape, the universal love of God, and how that factors into the story.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be incomprehensible to us. We're supposed to, if we're following real Christian theology and philosophical ideas, agape is the kind of love you're supposed to strive for. Universal love for everyone and everything in equal measure without compromise. Even amidst all of the terrible things that people do and the failures that they have to be good. Yeah. Goodness, love is not contingent on goodness, which is not a fair perspective to ask of humans. Because we don't get to be able to weather any kind of wrongdoing or the shit we see on the news. We have a finite amount of time. We have limited capacity. Relationships are hard.
Yeah.
It is not our burden to be able to love everything unconditionally, right? Yeah. Not even dogs love everything unconditionally, and that's what we think they do.
That is true.
But they have emotions and preferences.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is
my
why
dog hates being alone.
Which is why I think agape, the universal concept of love for the nature of the universe and being itself, regardless of its shape or its changes, is strictly belongs to God, to the abstraction of the universe itself as a whole existing, whether you want to personify that or not. I can personify the joining of an atom through the strong force as a fundamental ontological concept of love, and a scientist will scoff and barf at me saying that. But
they're jerks.
Yeah, well, that's fine. They can be jerks because God loves them for being jerks because they're the ones who figure out how the machine works. The but like, God can have that capacity for love because God can just be the universe as it is.
So interesting.
And so that's kind of where I think the unification of the themes of love and hate come in. It's through that final ending, the abstraction of the long quiet and the shifting mound becoming the abstract concept of time and becoming the universe again, that I see them being able to once again achieve love for each other and everything. That's sort of where I see the story going, and why that ending is still my favorite, because it is the return of the most supreme, unfathomable concept of love to the universe by returning the universe to how it is.
Okay, so we do have meaningful differences here. Because like I feel in my core like that's kind of a lot to ask.
No, never ask it of a person.
Even of the universe, man. I just and sort of related to that is I find it very troubling that the shifting mound, the god of change, is so resistant to the relationship changing. That there's something about that really bothers me. Like, you are not doing your job, Shifty.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's part of my video, but that is what I see the construct as. The construct has unnaturally flipped their roles.
Interesting.
The shifting mound has to keep the long quiet on the same path that they've started before in order to reach the end. Whereas the long quiet, who is supposed to be keeping things exactly the same, is burdened by the construct to make choices and enact change.
Yeah.
So like the reason that is so frustrating is because they are unnaturally in their opposite position. Change is being forced to keep things the same and is working to put the universe back the way it was to keep things the same. And permanence is being made to try to change the universe. So they are being made to do the other's job. That's the construct.
Yeah. That's interesting. And I think your kind of conclusion is like, that's unnatural and therefore bad.
I mean, it sucks for both of them to not be able to be what they are.
Yeah, nobody's having a good time here. That's for sure.
Which is because like if we want to stick to the character analysis, I think the ending where we go back to the universe being the way it was is also the characters finally being able to be themselves wholly again. Change can be change and permanence can be permanence, and they can work together to create time instead of them trying to be the other person.
But what if they weren't what if they didn't have agape prior to this? What if there was something about the universe that just wasn't the fabric of reality, that wasn't working for them, and in order to find their way back to agape, they need to change something?
Right. The question is, what if Leibniz is wrong and this is not the most perfect version of reality as it already is?
Yeah.
And my answer to that is, from a sociological human nomos perspective, arguing that humanity is the perfect version of what it could be sucks ass and is not true. But perhaps the universe abstractly and ontologically is already exactly the way it needs to be for humanity to get its shit together. But like the question is, what if there is a fundamental problem with the universe? And like I think that might just be our fundamental disagreement. I don't think there's a fundamental problem with how being exists, and maybe you do.
I don't know if I do. I guess I'm out here just making room for the possibility.
Yeah. I mean, if we could figure out a way to do something about the fundamental laws of physics, of ontological reality, perhaps we could change it. I think what's more likely is that we'd fuck it up.
Oh yeah, no, I don't want that job. That's for sure.
So rather than fuck it up, let's learn how to find peace with our marriage to the universe, with our domestic partnership with the only domicile that can possibly exist.
Well, I fully respect where you're coming from, and I think I still disagree with you, but I do think that
I
we have
mean,
found peace in our disagreement.
I don't fully believe what I just said either. Like, I'm very upset with how things are quite often.
Yeah, I don't really believe anything that I think there's a real darkness in both our conclusions, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, there's the me that speaks as the sage and like the wizened philosophy man, and then there's the me and how I actually feel, and
Yeah.
how I actually feel is we got problems, man, and I don't know if it's fundamental or just people. I would like to think it's people because that's more manageable.
Yeah, no, I can totally understand where you're coming from there.
All right. Well, I think this was absolutely wonderful and charming, and I'm glad you made the time to have this weird podcast with me, because I think neither of us knew where it would go or what we were going to talk about, but
no idea.
I just figured I felt that we really wanted to talk about it, so we should.
I love it. I love it that we did it, and I love it that maybe somebody will listen to it and be like, "No, those two jokers are interesting, I guess."
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully no one listened to this high and like completely disassociated. Only slightly disassociate and then come back.
Just a little high.
Yeah, just get a little high.
All right, Socra, you take very good care of yourself. Thank you so much for inviting me. This was such a good idea.
Yeah, thanks for coming. All right.
Yeah.
You have a good rest of your day. We'll talk to you later at book club.
Bye-bye.